Hi there, Mr. Holcomb here with another episode of the Math Behind the Modules. This is Lesson 10, Distributive Property and Products of Decimals. So we're really focusing on the distributive property here. So yes, there are different ways you can do math, but we are now introducing a property that you are going to use, and the better you get at it from the start, the easier it will be for you in the future. You will use the distributive property in Algebra 1. Geometry, Algebra 2, trigonometry, pre-calculus, calculus. It doesn't go away, and the sooner you get a grasp on the distributive property, the better off you will be. So do not just try to do this multiplication problems and avoid the distribution. Okay, so here we go. Here's how we used to do it before we knew about the distributive property. So I'm not even going to discuss the distributive property yet. We're just going to do two problems multiplying. So how do we multiply a number when there's zeros involved? Okay, there is a shortcut. Even though this says 200 times 32.6, we can change the order and do this. 32.6 times 200. I switch them. That is the commutative problem. Order does not matter. We'll get the same answer. It is easier to put the number that does not have zeros first and then put the number with the zeros down below. And notice that there are spaces here, and we just hang the zeros out here, and then we just put them down here. So that's just moving the decimal two places to the right after multiplying. So now I multiply 6 times 2, and I get 12. I multiply 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 1 is 5. And I multiply 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay? Now the decimal was here, if we put the decimal straight down. But multiplying by tens, and then hundreds would put it here. So my answer is 6,501. Now when you're dealing with large numbers, it's always good to put a comma after every three positions so that we can read it more clearly. Okay? Let's try another one. 22.12 times 500. Notice I left some of those zeros over. 0, 0. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 plus 1 is 6. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 2 is 10 plus that carried 1 is 11. Now the decimal would have been right here. Since we multiplied by 100, 10, 100, the decimal goes here. So that is 11,060. Okay? Just give you a recap of multiplying with numbers with zeros at the end. Now we're going to use the distributive property. Now the distributive property says if we have a number, we're going to call it A, and it's multiplied by a sum B plus C, and we can distribute that and say A times B, and then bring the plus sign over, and then multiply the A times the C, and get the product of A and C. This is the distributive property. It's very important to do when we are solving more complex problems in higher math. Okay, so we need to practice that, and that's what this lesson is about. So now when I come down to this, use partial products and the distributive property to calculate the product. So what they mean is we're going to multiply 200 times 32, and we're going to multiply 200 times the decimal in two separate steps. So I'm going to take that 200, and I'm going to multiply it by, and I'm going to put parentheses here because that means times. I'm going to put the whole number portion, 32, and then I'm going to add a decimal, 0.6. 32 plus 0.6 is 32.6. This is still equivalent to that. Nothing has changed. Okay, and in the distributive property, we are now going to take 200 times 32. Okay, and I like putting parentheses around the operations, and then this plus sign is going to come down. And then I am going to multiply 32 200 times 0.6, heard of that? So then I'm going to put a parenthesis here, and it's going to be 200 times 0.6. Okay. So now if I multiply 200 times 32, we really just need to multiply the 2 times 32. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. And we have 2 zeros here, so that is 6,400. Plus 6 times 2 is 12. 2 decimal places. So 2 times 6 is 12, but that's a decimal, which we'll put that here. So we move the decimal 2 places from here. 1, 2. Because 2 times 0.6 is 1.2. And the decimal moves to here, and that's 120. Then we add the 2 together. 6,400 plus 120. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 2. 4 plus 1. Bring down my 6. And I get 6,500. And that is what I got up here. Okay? Example 2. Use partial products in the distributive property to calculate the area of a rectangle. Patio shown below. Also keep in mind that area of a rectangle is area equals length times width. Okay, length times width. Well, we have 500 feet this direction. The length is 500 feet, and the width is 22.12 feet. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make 2 rectangles. Okay, this big rectangle down here is going to be 500 by 22. Okay, so we're going to break this up, and we're going to calculate this area first. And then this tiny little sliver up here is going to be the 0.12 feet. And we're going to calculate the area of this rectangle. And then we're going to add the 2 back together. And that's basically what the distributive property does. Okay. So I'm going to take 500 times 22.12, but I'm going to distribute that to the whole number plus the decimal. 500 times 22 plus 500 times that 0.12. So I distribute, I get 500 times 22 plus 500 times 0.12. I'll put parentheses there just so you see that times and that decimal aren't the same thing. So again, I'm multiplying by something with a 0, so I put 2 zeros. 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So 500 times 22 is 11,000. 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. The decimal's there, but I have hundreds, so that means to move the decimal 2 places. There's 1, and there's 2. That is not right. Okay. Just fix that. 0.12, not 1.2, my apologies. So 500 times 5 times 2 is 10, so I have the 2 zeros. 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 1, 5 plus 1 is 6. The decimal would have gotten 5 times 0.12 is 0.6, but if I move the decimal 2 places, it's 60. My apologies. So then I take 11,000 plus 60, and I get 0, 6, 0, 1, 1. I get 11,060. Okay, same result. Okay, so here we just simply multiply, but down here we use the distributive property. We aren't doing this just to do it a different way. This is an introduction to the distributive property, where there are situations where the distributive property is a must, so we have to use it. Okay, so now we're going to do an exercise. So get into groups. We need 5 groups, so split the class up as evenly as possible into 5 groups. And I'm going to give each station a problem, and I'm going to write them up here. And then after you get into groups, your station works on that problem. calculate the product of these decimals using the partial product of the distributive product. So the first one, station 1, you are going to do 300 times 25.4. Station 2, 45.9 times 100. Station 3, 800 times 12.3. Station 4, 400 times 21.8. Finally, station 5, you are going to do 32.6 times 200. Okay, pause the, do these problems, and then come back and we'll have a discussion as to if you got this. I'll do the solutions out on the screen in the video and check your solutions. So get into groups and do these problems. Okay, so here we go. We're going to multiply 300 by 25.4. So we're going to take the 300 times 25 plus split up step 1, split up the whole portion of the number and the fraction part for the decimal. Step 2, distribute 300 times 55 plus distribute 300 times 24. Calculate that. 0, 0. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So that is 7,500. Okay, 3 times 4 is 12. But 3 times 0.4 is 1.2. We have 2 zeros here, so it's not 1.2. Move the decimal 1, 12. The decimal 2, 120. Then take 7,500 plus 120, and the sum of those two is 7,600. Station 2. Everybody should be copying these now. If you are in a different station, you should have all 5 of these with the solutions in your module before you leave. Okay, so station 2 had 100, and they were multiplying 45.9, so it's 100 times 45 plus 0.9. And then distribute 100 times 45 plus 100 times, so I did a different, so we're distributing 100 times 45, so 100 times 45 plus 100 times 29. Okay. 45 times 1 is 45, 2 zeros, so that's 4,500, plus 1 times 0.9 is 0.9. We have 2 zeros, 1 place, 2 places. Now my decimals here. So 4,500 plus 90 equals 4,500. Station 3. We're multiplying 800 times 12.3. Step 1, take that 800, multiply it by the whole portion, plus the decimal. Distribute 800 times 12 plus 800 times 23. Okay. 8 times 2, 16. Carry the 1. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. Bring down these 2 zeros. So that's 9,600. 8 times 3 is 24. But 8 times 0.3 is 2.4. Move the decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. Take 9,600 plus 240. Be careful with your decimal places. 0, 4, 8, 9. 9,840. Okay. Station 4. You had 400. You're going to multiply it by 21.8. So the first thing I do is take 21 plus 0.8, split up the whole portion in the decimal, distribute, get 400 times 21 plus 400 times 0.8. Okay? Distribute, and then we multiply. 4 times 1, 4. 4 times 2, 8. 2 zeros, 1, 2. 8,400. 4 times 8 is 32. But 4 times 0.8 is 3.2. The decimal 1, the decimal 2. 8,400 plus 320. 0 plus 0, 0 plus 2, 4 plus 3, 8 plus 0. 8,700. Okay. And finally, station 5. Okay, this one, the decimal's first. I think there was one up above that was as well, yes. Okay. So I didn't really mention that now. So this one here, remember, you can rewrite this as 200 times 32.6. That's the commutative property. Order doesn't matter. And now we're taking that 200 and we're distributing it to 32 plus 6. And then distribute, and you get 200 times 32 plus 200 times 6. So 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6. Bring down these 2 zeros. 200 times 32 is 6,400 plus 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 0.6 is 1.2. Bring the decimal to the right 1 and 2. 2 zeros. So it's 120. So 6,400 plus 120 is 0 plus 0, 0 plus 2, 4 plus 1, 6 plus 0. So my answer is 6,520. That was the end of the lesson. Now do your exit ticket, turn it in, and do your problem set.